Do I keep up and have alerts every time a new model is released? No, because again, that's a rabbit hole. I am choosing not to go down that rabbit hole because it's endless.
Yeah, true.
Will people get left behind? Yes, in the same way that they've been left behind in every step change in history. If you are anxious about AI, it's not too late. So it's getting ourselves to that level of knowledge and understanding where we feel a bit more comfortable, but we don't have to be experts. And we often think we know enough. Very rarely is that true. Anxiety often comes from lack of understanding.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, for sure. 100%.
So we can solve that, and we have the power to solve that by going and asking the questions, going and finding some resources. Yes, it's always going to get more sophisticated as we get the new models and the capabilities and things like that. Still based on you.
How do I start figuring out where and when I should and can use AI in my business or in my personal life?
You as a founder have a vision, what you want to create and where you want to get to. That doesn't mean you're the right person to execute everything for that. Could you automate absolutely everything and if you're a business owner with a workforce of 50, take it down to 10? Probably. The question is, does that make sense for where you are trying to go? The way that I look at agents, what can they do without me?
Philip Wride is a Dubai-based entrepreneur, AI implementation specialist, and founder of The Optional Founder, a business built around one idea that your company should be able to run without you. With a background spanning esports, Disney, and operations, he now helps business owners build AI-powered systems that create freedom rather than dependency. In this episode, we get into where and when AI actually belongs in your business, whether AI is making us lazy, how to avoid getting left behind, and the reality of building AI agents.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. So Philip, I always like to give the audience context of how we met. So me and you actually connected backstage at the Sharjah Entrepreneurship Festival. I was there with my wife doing some podcasts backstage with the speakers, and you were there giving, at the time, I remember it was a workshop on building AI agents and how to do that, or something along those lines, right?
It was, yes. So absolutely thinking about AI from a different perspective. We all have the conversations with ChatGPT, a Gemini, a Claude, and all of that, but it was specifically focused on, well, how can we get them to do more? I think we'll dive into this in more detail as we go through.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
The workshop was, how do I prompt? What's the structure that I use? So it's repeatable. How do I think about plugging them into systems? So plugging the AI into systems. So yeah, that was what the workshop.
The workshop was about. Yeah. So one of the, as I mentioned to that day backstage, one of the biggest issues with this conversation is there's this anxiety people have in the sense of everyone knows, like, I need to do something with it. Like, I have to, even myself included. I've been just using, for the most part, ChatGPT. Plus I have some other AIs I use for like my editing and stuff like that helps me out. But I haven't really dive down the AI rabbit hole and the possibilities that are there and so on until, as I mentioned, off camera conversation recently. I knew I had to do it, but it was only until someone who has more experience in the space and has tested things and built things sparked an idea. I'm like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. And I think that's the problem. Everyone talks about, yeah, you can do this, but it's very hard when I'm overwhelmed with options on what to do, where to start. So I want to start the conversation here first before we get into how to build and where and Claude and all that shit, we need to answer this question first. How do I start figuring out where and when I should and can use AI in my business or in my personal life too?
So great question. And I'll take you through my journey slightly because
Sure.
I think it will add context. So I only dived into AI a year ago.
Okay.
So I've been doing tech stuff for 25 years, building systems, doing projects and things for Fly Dubai and OSN and some of the big corporates here. And it was like, AI, not sure. I started ChatGPT, had a couple of conversations, still not sure. It wasn't until I read a book. And to your point, that book opened my mind to say, okay, here's a different way of using AI. It was about agents, getting them to have conversations with people, qualify leads, things like that. And so thinking about how we get started where we can use AI, trying to understand what's happening in the space. That book was a great help for me, but I think anybody who is approaching this fresh, the way that I would look at it is what's happening in the business. Okay? Because if we can understand what's happening in the business, how people are using their time, what the processes are, then we start to look at it from a systems perspective. And it's like, okay, it would be great if I could find something to do X, Y, and Z. Not, here are all of these tools, how do I apply them? Okay, so it's the reverse.
Yeah.
It's thinking about, well, actually in my business, reporting is horrible. Okay, how can I streamline my reporting? I was speaking to a lady yesterday. She is a mystery shopper. Okay, she's in the UK. And her visits, doing a mystery shop, normally takes a day and a half type thing, because she goes to the location. Sometimes she has to fly. And she takes all the photos and makes some notes and things like that. And then the software that she's got currently, it takes 4 hours for her to enter all the data to do a client report.
Wow.
So the conversation we had was like, we can probably use AI to cut that down to 20 minutes. Give a voice note, get it to analyze the voice notes, get it to pre-populate half of the report, and you're done. It'll save you so much time. So it's, for me, the way that I always look at it is what's happening in the business and how can we then apply or think about applying AI to that, rather than trying to say, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity.
Yeah,
exactly. It's like all of
Yeah.
these different Manus and all the rest. Is like, well, what can they do?
Yeah.
Find the problem in the business, then find the AI solution that will support that.
I think one of the challenges is what I see from my perspective is everyone wants to be in AI. All businesses are implementing AI, but I feel like a lot are just implementing AI or trying to for the sake of just doing it without coming back to question one, which you pointed out, is like, where in the business is there a way for me to automate and free up some more time, more resources, and so on? Because I do feel, well, maybe you might say differently. Can you be over AI'd? Because that's also what AI incentivizes you to do. Do you get what I'm saying? It's all about automate. You can automate, forever. So how do you pick, this is where I really should use it? Because I could argue that, you could use it for reporting and for your sales and for you could do a whole business with AI, right? As you know. So what are your thoughts on that?
The human element is still important. There are certain businesses where that is paramount. Yes, you can put the systems in place, you can have AI do certain things, but a lot of business is still relationship. So where does that human element still need to exist for you to get the maximum value from your clients, the products that you offer, any of those sorts of things? So could you automate absolutely everything? And if you're a business owner with a workforce of 50, take it down to 10? Probably. The question is, does that make sense for where you are trying to go?
Okay.
And I say that thinking about it from the perspective of, how do your customers respond to that? So if you're doing and this is an area that I'm in with the agency, the front end of qualifying leads, having conversations, deciding who to pass a lead onto, and the AI is doing all that analysis and things. It's like, okay, well, maybe that part is okay because it's an initial qualification conversation, but then actually signing the deal and being able to understand someone's style and tone and the pushback that they have in the sales, it's like maybe that still needs to be a human element. I've been working with med spas. It's very interactive. It's people, it's relationships, it's being there and being present. So what are those aspects of the business where, yes, it makes sense to think about AI, and what are those that actually probably make sense to keep some of the people involved? Will we start to see businesses that are pure 100% AI with one person running? Yeah, we've already had people thinking about that, saying, I think that Sam Altman said it from OpenAI and ChatGPT. It's like $1 billion business from one person just because they're using AI. That's going to be the future. doesn't mean everybody has to take that route. Some will not find it comfortable. Some will be like, too much AI. Okay, I'm going to now start pushing back on this. So again, it's about prioritization. Where do we want the AI to support us? Maybe it is just freeing up time so we can go and have more sales conversations, go to the events, support the clients, have that human element and more time to do that human element. That's where we feel comfortable.
On the freeing up time element, because that's always the argument that people say with AI. I was having this debate with a friend of mine yesterday, and he was saying, like with AI, and it frees up your time, and you can do these things, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, and I was like, I do agree with you, of course, but I also think it does make you lazier. And we were having this whole debate about the laziness aspect. Does it? But doesn't it? It's a great brainstorming partner. It's an excellent brainstorming partner. But there is a layer of, or like a step in your, like, let's say if thought process was broken down, there's that initial step of that initial like little effort that you just to start the thinking engine. You don't need that anymore. People argue like, oh yeah, so that means you can think more creatively because now you have more energy to think. And I'm like, maybe, I don't know. I think it's probably both, but where do you sit?
I'm going to be awkward and say I sit in the middle. I think for some things...
Which is fair. Yeah,
yes.
I understand.
Yeah. Give you an example. It was taking me 6 hours to set up and test an AI agent for clients, okay? So I got AI to help me build a tool that's taking my setup time down to an hour.
Yeah.
Okay. So I freed up that time that I can then think about, well, what's the next iteration of this? What can I help, get it to help me with further down the line? But on the flip side, even if I'm thinking about what I can get AI to do, I'll probably still go to a coffee shop, write all my ideas out by hand, because that's something that I've always done. It's a way for me to get stuff out of my head onto paper. Even if I then go to Claude and say, here's what I'm thinking, help me refine it, I've done that initial thinking first. And it will be that balancing act. Some things, yes, free up time. Creating content is one that there's lots of conversation about.
Of course, yeah.
Am I using AI to generate some content? Yes. But I've had conversations with it first so it understands me, my book, my background. All of those things to help shape it so that when it gives me something, I can be like, no, you've pulled two different experiences here that don't match. Okay, let's refine this. Okay, this one is okay. Yeah, the story is right. The frame of reference is okay. A couple of tweaks. I've changed the writing style. Review this, memorize it. Let's think about it for the future. So, things like that, yes, it can save time, absolutely, because it's then generating for me and I can refine it rather than always coming to a point of blank page. Okay, where do I start?
Sure.
So yeah, I would say I sit in the middle, thinking certain things, yes, save time.
Sure.
Other things, having that sort of what you would probably class as manual input, that thinking time, that thinking space, still important.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably a fair comparison, because he was saying that because everything's going to be so automated, like you said, you can be now a $1 billion business with just you and one person and AI, that because so much can be automated and so many jobs are going to be disrupted. From the podcasts I've listened to, because there's been lots of technological disruptions historically, we always adjusted, and life moved on. The big issue people have with this one is not just the scale of it, but the speed of how quickly it's going to happen. That forced change of different jobs and different mindsets is going to happen. So he was arguing that you're going to be forced to start to think in a best case scenario, because you have so much more time and everything's taken care of. You will start thinking more about how to think like an entrepreneur and a CEO. Would you agree with that, or would you disagree? Because it's going to be then about you are the differentiating factor, because the tools are the same. So it's how creative and how you think you are and how you put things together.
It's a tricky one.
I know.
Because
but these are the types of questions that I think aren't discussed enough. It's more about the person, like the behavior and psychology of
The behavior.
Yeah.
And, if we look at society rightly or wrongly, you have structures, you have different tiers, the traditional blue collar, white collar, all those sorts of things. So it's just like, well, what happens to that structure? What happens to those different types of roles? I mean, we had that situation with, let's automate all the, vehicle production lines. Suddenly, the nature of the roles changed.
Mm-hmm.
So now it was about making sure that things were happening and working in the right way, not necessarily having to do it all by hand and doing it manually.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so is this a similar situation? Possibly. Your comment about, do we all become entrepreneurs and CEOs? I would say yes, from the perspective of ourselves. What do we want to get out of life?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've suddenly got more time, whether that's time to think in a business context in the environment that we're working in, or time for ourselves to think about, well, actually, what do I want to explore?
Yeah.
What do I want to try and do? There's maybe this thing that is not taking up all my time. I'm working with someone and I'm getting paid for it. And, 20 years ago, it would be called a job. Now, not necessarily. Fractional work is becoming bigger, all that sort of stuff. So it's like, okay, if I suddenly have more time back and everybody has more time back, what does that enable us to do? Maybe it is the experiences. Maybe it is trying to solve bigger problems. Maybe it is just, exploring and seeing what we want to do with our lives. AI is, in my view, it's an enabler. It's a facilitator for, yes, doing more, but then being in a position to go and experience and explore more.
Yeah, because the argument is always it's not that it frees up time. What do you do with that free time? Because I could argue, okay, I have more free time. I can just sit and chill and whatever. But to your point, I think it could push people to start thinking more entrepreneurially about themselves, more not necessarily about they're gonna go build a business, but just about where's the strategy for my life? Where do I want to go? The type of person I want to be. So that kind of approach. So in the business context, I think, because you could argue that you could apply AI to any product, any business, which you probably could. The areas that I've seen it do best is like fintech. I think that's been we put AI and blockchain together. That's like the match made in heaven for like fintech. But you can use it in education. You can use it in all this. So you can use it in everything. The question then becomes, I'm trying to teach people in our podcast today is for the general person who has that like anxiety, that doesn't want to be left behind. What do we have to do to not get left behind? More, it's not necessarily on how to use it for your business. I think we could come up with 10 million use cases. It's more about for you as a person, how can I stay in the game with AI? Because like, what platform do I use? What do I use it for? How do I build? Am I doing it right? I don't even have the AI will correct itself, but I don't know if even I'm just assuming what it's telling me is right. What if you came and be like, I don't know, actually you need to like look here and whatever. So what's your 2 cents on that?
I look at this from the perspective of the knowledge chain. Okay, so it's one of the 12 chains that I wrote about in my book. And we often think we know enough. Very rarely is that true. And to the point that you've just made of, yes, there are so many models and tools and level of anxiety of what do I need to know, where do I even start? And I would take a step back to that and I would almost challenge it and say, it's a decision. It's a moment in time where you decide, actually, I'm not going to scroll on Instagram. I am not going to read all the sports results. It's like, I'm going to use that time to gain knowledge in a different area. Does knowing the scores from last weekend impact your life? No, not at all. You've had no involvement. Okay, so you've just used time that you have, which is a finite resource, that you could be using on bridging that knowledge gap and saying, okay, you don't necessarily have to know everything. Honesty and transparency. Have I tried every model? No. Have I tried every platform? No, because I've made a decision to get to a point of I know enough to do the things I need to do.
Yes.
There's no point me going down every rabbit hole.
Yeah.
That's a no-win situation because it's constantly changing. But to understand or get to a point of understanding where you can say, I know the types of output I can get from AI. I know how it can be applied. I know some of the key platforms and models and what they do. You know, the difference between a nano banana versus, you know, something else from an image generation perspective. You know, if we take, okay, VO3, that's video. They're both from Google. Okay, have I tested both of them? For me personally, yes, but somebody else could be like, I don't know that I need to. I know what they do. So if I'm in a conversation,
I can comment on it. I'll be like, oh, that sounds familiar to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's getting ourselves to that level of knowledge and understanding where we feel a bit more comfortable, but we don't have to be experts. In the same way that very rarely we will be experts at anything in life because everything's so broad. Yes, I've got 20 years experience in the video games industry, and I've worked on the marketing side for a couple of games, but could I tell you exactly how they were programmed and put together? No. But I've been in the industry so long. How do you not know this?
Yeah.
Well, that's because that's not an area that I've then investigated and got involved in because it's so broad. I think the same applies to this. It's choosing how we want to use our time to then go and find the knowledge that will make us feel more comfortable. There are resources there. We can sit and have conversations with ChatGPT to try and gain that knowledge, or with Claude, or with Gemini. It's like, okay, I want to understand this in more detail. Okay, help me understand what a model is, what tokens are, how they're used. You know, let's get that basic understanding. Okay, now I feel more informed. I'm not so anxious because anxiety often comes from lack of understanding.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, for sure. 100%.
So we can solve that, and we have the power to solve that by going and asking the questions, going and finding some resources.
For me, I think you made a very good point that it is a choice of time. You know, this doesn't just apply to the AI conversation, but this applies to so many things. We're just using it relative to the time you could invest in AI to not deal with this anxiety and so on. I think one of the things, AI is amazing but it's a very, what's the word? It's hard for us to grasp. It's gonna be very difficult for the world to grasp. The way it is now, I think, is fine. Everyone's using their own tool. Oh yeah, I use it for my edits. I use it for that. But when it gets to, you know, a point that it's really like almost too powerful, people are not gonna. It's gonna be a question mark in time. You know, I really like how it's gonna be a separation moment. I think you either get on board or it's really gonna be too late. And get on board like to a, not just to the level that we were talking about, to like a very, because think about in the future what jobs are gonna look like. What is a job gonna be in the future? What would a description? Do you have to have AI skills? But I'm not an AI expert to judge you on your AI skills. Do I judge you on how many things you've built with AI? Like, you got what I'm saying? So it's a whole, I don't know how it's going to play out.
Well, there are some schools of thought that say there will be no jobs.
Yeah, well,
we'll just have free time.
I've heard that too. But then if there's no job, then the next question you think about is like, okay, then I go to a job. We do everything we do to make money, to live and to do that. So there's no jobs. That means no one's making money, but then life will still move. Do you get what it's such a...
Yeah,
feels like a sci-fi movie like discussion. It really does.
Yeah, that's it. So those schools of thought are, if there are no jobs, then you potentially will have minimum basic income for everybody because corporations are just running themselves and doing whatever they need to do with the AI and all the processes and everything else. So still need to support the people, governments support that. Yeah, again, there are schools of thought around that. Will people get left behind? Yes. In the same way that they've been left behind in every step change in history. That's going to be something that happens. Can we try and minimize that risk, mitigate it, yes, by gaining the knowledge, at least having that understanding, because then we increase our level of value to what we're doing, who we are, who we're working with, who we're working for. And if I think about the landscape, and the types of jobs, some of them, will still be manual. Can we get AI to go and do a plumbing job? Not yet, until robotics.
Yeah.
And then it's a case of, it's not just AI, it's robotics as well. So
yeah.
again, it's a different combination there to try and do certain things.
Sure.
Are we going to get to a point where AI can think for itself in a way that supports us? And I say that thinking about the comment we made of, okay, the thinking first, going and writing the ideas, okay? Do we still need people for that? Possibly, probably, because experience, context, thinking about specific problem or solution. So do we become more knowledge workers rather than menial workers? Possibly. It's hard to say where things will go, because yes, the AI will improve. People will choose whether to adopt it or not, so gain the knowledge about it. But you've still got 2 levels beyond that will influence everything.
Yeah.
The tech companies and the governments. We've already seen details of the deals that have been done by the US government.
Yeah, of course.
Who they've picked and who they haven't picked. That will always influence whatever happens.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, since you're in the space of, building AI agents for agencies and so on, from the people I've spoken to who have tried to build their own things, and I mentioned this to you, I think at the time, was AI is amazing because now it's the person who could never build like me, for example, great example. Now I can, so I can do things. But that doesn't mean it's good. And this is where level 2, kind of what we're talking about, level 2 comes in here. Someone like you who understands how these things are built and where the bugs are and how they work and so on. So it's great that it's kind of leveled the playing field and given everyone the same tools. Like, hey, if you do some learning, you could build whatever you want. The problem I've heard from them is because they don't have that technical background and expertise, it's taken them a long, long time to build and refine. And I've heard of them, they're like, man, the number of tokens you have to pay, I don't know what that means, by the way, so I'd love to explain, if you could explain what that means.
Yep.
So then the question becomes, where do I need to, I'm trying to understand where's the point of difference? What will my point of difference be in 3 years? That's the kind of question I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to understand what knowledge level do I have to be either ahead or competing, because it will get to that stage. Now it's like a mashup, but it's slowly, you'll see it. There will be classes and levels of this, and it will have a massive effect on what you can do in your business. Yeah.
I will look at it from this perspective.
Okay.
There are already classes and levels in everything in life.
True.
One
Fair.
university course is better than another. One
Fair.
university is perceived better than another.
Fair.
Digital courses of, here's my experience, I'm sharing it. It will be right for some people, won't be right for others.
Mm-hmm.
To your point of, okay, you have a level of knowledge and you've got to a point. I think like anything, it will be, how quickly do you get to the point of realization of, do I sink more of my own time? Do I go and find someone to help me? In the same way that we do trying to grow a business. Mm-mm. I've got to a point, I can't do it all myself. I need to build a team. Okay, I may take a short-term hit to support that, but the goal is then to have the team support so I can grow further. Same sort of thing. So rather than you then spending all of your time, spending all of your tokens and trying to trudge through, often just take that step back. Okay, I've got to this point and it's doing certain things and that's fine, but okay, can I get the knowledge from somewhere else rather than trying to muddle through? Can I just have a conversation with someone and be like, can you give me some guidance from your experience or what you've seen?
Why can't the where my confusion in this thing is, why can't the AI fix it? I thought the AI is supposed to fix itself, so why does it still run into problems of development and launch? Do you understand where my confusion comes in?
Yeah, it's a great question, and often it's a sort of a disconnect between context. Okay, so context is one of the 5 steps that I go through when creating a prompt. Okay. It's the C in the focus model, which we can go into later if we want to. So if I think about it, okay, I'm using Bolt.new, which is a vibe coding platform.
Okay. And what does vibe coding mean? Please, someone explain this to me, because I hear it all the time. Yeah,
getting AI to build and do the coding for you. So you have the idea, you have conversations with it, but then it writes the code.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. I thought that's what it meant, but I just wanted clarification. Okay.
So from a context perspective, if I say, I want a website that does X, Y, and Z, it's like, great, okay, you've given me 2 sentences. I'll create something. Will it be exactly what I want? Probably not, because there's not enough context. I need it to have this section and this section and this section. I want it this color scheme, and okay, now it has more context. So sometimes the issues that you get is because your understanding and vision is not matching what it's thinking or the way that it's perceiving things.
In terms of how you're like prompting it or like communicating it.
Prompting is one thing, but I have had regular back and forth with the AI. It's like, this is not working, this is not working, this is not working. Okay, go and analyze it. Tell me why. Okay, yes, because I didn't realize you've got this and I didn't realize you've got connected into this system. And it's like, okay, so you didn't have that full context. Right. Now, I'm going to tell you what you need to know. How would you resolve it? Okay, well, now that I understand it more, I will do these things. Okay, go and do it. So yeah, it is a challenge. And even myself, who has that tech experience, I'd say I'm fortunate because I can be like, no, that's not right.
Yeah.
We need to do this differently.
Yeah.
Okay, and I can actually, I do often shout at it and be like, come on, seriously. Look, we're going in circles here. Let's think about it differently. And and it's like, okay, yeah, I accept it's. And I guess another way to think of it is context, yes. Sophistication is another. Okay? Child.
Great word.
It has access to lots of knowledge, but it's about narrowing that to say, again, what am I building? Why am I building? Helping understands the objectives for what I'm trying to build. Am I trying to build a platform? Am I trying to build a mobile app? Who is the audience for this? What do I want it to do? And help the AI over time understands that in more detail, like you are training a child and educating them, so that it can then support you and get to a point where it's like, yeah, I can see this is going to be an issue. Here's what I'm suggesting instead. And those are types of conversations I have with Claude. It's like, I've had this idea. Can you give me a critical analysis? And it's like, don't be so stupid. You've already told me you want to do this for your business. This is going to derail you. Okay. But I've got it to that point because I've trained it. I've had the conversations with it. I've given it the context. And I think that's one of the things that we need to appreciate working with the AI, and why we still get, as we're trying to build things, there are issues. Sometimes it is because it's like, yeah, I forgot to tell you need a key or a login detail from this platform and this platform, and you need to plug them in here. It's like, okay, now you've told me that. Great, I can solve it. I guess situations like that.
So, for example, like in what you were saying earlier about if you're building something you don't have the knowledge, it would be a smart decision to go find it yourself rather than to continually try to figure it out, because you're not going to know what you're doing wrong and like what you need to fix. So yes, the other day with Claude, I'm like, oh, it integrates. There was an API to integrate with my website, which is on like Webflow. And then I was seeing like what I could do with it. It's like it can read everything and you can make changes. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just accept this. I'm like, because I don't have the technical ability to go into my website. Someone built it for me, right? So I don't know. I can change a few things here and there, but I don't really know to make significant changes. But now I have an AI and it says I can. But I was sitting there, I'm like, yeah, but even if I told it what to do, I don't know, will that ruin the website? Will it mess up some code? You know what I'm saying? So there's still that a human element that needs to come in, that expertise. And that I wanted to bring this into the founder conversation because I'm part of a founder community called Founder Connects. Shout out, guys, love you. It's a community of over 300 tech startups and founders. So all I hear every day and speak to people about is like people doing new things with new ideas, with AI. But I still feel like there's a common problem around that a lot of them face, which is this point that we're talking about, is they had a good idea, they built something, and they are trying to refine it themselves without having the technical expertise overhead to get that.
Yeah.
Because maybe they can't find the person, it's too costly or someone. So in those kind of situations, if it's just you and the AI and you can't afford, let's say, that expertise, what advice would you have to me then in how to interact with it or accelerate that process of,
Yeah. It would be about reframing and managing expectations.
Okay, not what I was expecting you to say. Very interesting. Okay.
In the same way that if I look at a car, can I go and rebuild an engine? No. I can read a manual and I may be able to go and change the oil, but could I rebuild an engine? No.
Yeah.
So even though you have AI as a tool and it can build things, yes, it's always going to get more sophisticated as we get the new models and the capabilities and things like that. But it's still based on you. Mm. So one of the questions that I would ask is, what made you decide to start trying to build something yourself? Okay? Because if you know that there's potentially going to be a point that you hit where you either haven't got the skills or the AI isn't capable enough yet to help you get all of the way, is that a sensible decision? Mm. Is it a good use of time? Mm. Would your time be better spent trying to find someone, whoever that is, or the knowledge that will help you get over the hurdle that you know you're going to hit, rather than diving in and then getting frustrated by going, I now can't take this any further because there's this hurdle, there's this limitation. Mm-mm-mm. So if it's, and I am a founder, I've built platforms, I've built tools, I'm still doing that, I'm using the AI to help me. It is getting better and it will become easier. But I think if you haven't got that technical background, it's worth managing those expectations. Can you get to an MVP?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you get the basic version, not the 3-year version with all the bells and whistles?
Yeah.
Because that's probably going to need a different level of expertise.
100%. Yeah.
Thinking about architecture, thinking about user journeys and customer journey and all those sorts of things. It's like slightly different skill sets. You as a founder have a vision, what you want to create and where you want to get to. That doesn't mean you're the right person to execute everything for that. Even if the AI can help you a lot of the way.
So is that one of the, I guess, misconceptions that a lot of people have, is that because if you listen to the narrative and the conversations and you see it happening across businesses, people are getting let go because of AI. It's not a fantasy thing. This is a real thing. But at the same time, we're having this conversation of, you're like, yes, I am doing that. I'm trying to optimize because I need less people, can do more things, but I just need a different level of person now to do that. So, and I think that element, this second part of your answer, is what's missing in the general narrative that I think you're seeing play out of AI, and that's it. And no people need it.
Every course will probably teach you how to prompt, okay? How to prompt to have conversations. Not all of them will teach you the systems thinking of how to use AI to support you in building something or how to incorporate AI into a system.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that's where, to your point, there's that level of separation. Yes, it's a different type of person that you are then looking for. And why I am now supporting businesses by saying, I can be that person. I can help you bridge that gap. You know, you've got systems in place. Okay, let's think about where it makes sense to try and plug AI in. Not necessarily do everything, but yeah, how do we save the time? How do we optimize? What does that look like? Because, you know, someone like me who has a bit of tech experience, a bit of AI experience, I can go in there and do that assessment. So yeah, it is about the different type of people that we need. But if we take it into that sort of founder and entrepreneur world, the same is true of sales.
Of course. Yeah.
You hear the stories as like the sales manager who gets you from 5 to 10 sales employees is not necessarily the same person who gets you to 100 at 100 mil rev. Okay?
Or as a founder as well.
Yeah. You as a founder or an entrepreneur will go through evolutions yourself. So does the business, and therefore the profile of person will change in certain roles.
Of course. Yeah. And to your point about, you know, how the roles are going to change of the business and so on, we've talked about, you know, if everyone's stuck with us to this point in the conversation, Philip, we're like, all right, Philip, you've convinced me. I'm going to use AI. I'm going to sign up to a platform. I'm going to do it. Let's start talking about, all right, now I want to build an agent. Let's first be clear, I think, to give the audience context of what, when we say build an AI agent, what do we mean by that? How do I build it? And what are the things I should pay attention to make sure either it's working properly or not? Give us a masterclass in agent creation.
Okay, so the way that I look at agents are what can they do without me?
Okay.
So the way that I speak to people about this is interactive AI versus autonomous AI. So having a conversation with ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, it's like, that's interactive.
Yeah.
As soon as I stop having a conversation, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Autonomous AI, so it's where agents fall in, is just like, how can I build something? And it may be AI with a wrapper. Okay. So it's that nice gooey chocolate that you have to, you put a wrapper around it to keep it in the box quite nicely. That's where the AI agent comes in. So in the worlds that I've been operating in for the past 6-8 months, for an agency in the US, it's conversational agents, okay? So the sales lead qualification. So somebody messages in on the website, messages in on Facebook, messages in on Instagram. The AI has that qualification conversation with them. What are you interested in? Tell me about this. You're asking about pricing. Okay, here's the details. Would you like somebody to call you with extra? Okay, great. Let me grab your name and phone number, and I'll get someone to call you tomorrow. That is an agent because it's autonomous. Okay. Now you may think, well, hang on, you've just said me having a conversation with ChatGPT. Well, that sounds very similar. The difference is that that agent has been trained to have a conversation for the business. So yes, it's having a conversation with a potential customer, but me as the business owner, I've set it up and trained it once, then I can step back. I know it's going to have conversations on my behalf. Okay. So therefore it becomes autonomous. It becomes autonomous for the business that's implementing it.
And is it the autonomous aspect that differentiates something between being an AI like tool or platform and being an agent?
Agents tend to have functions, okay?
They just continuously run.
Yes.
Okay.
Gotcha. So if we think, AI platforms, image generation, okay? I have to put in a prompt, I'm going to get an output.
Yeah.
It's an AI platform because it's using AI models to create those images, okay? An agent or, an agent as part of a process. So another way of thinking about this, going back to the wrapper analogy and the chocolates, is it's like, okay, I am putting AI into a process, and it can say, it's an agent because it's doing something, or it's potentially replacing manual work. Okay, so to give you an example of this, the conversational agents that I've had running for clients, they've been having hundreds of conversations a week. So I've got all of those data points. Okay, so I then created an agent, a process with a wrapper that says, take all of this data, analyze it, give me a report. Okay, so there's an AI analysis level in there. I've got all the data points, and then it's kicking out a report. So the wrapper is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. There's AI as an analysis as part of it. So that's the agent saying, let me analyze all these conversations. Oh, you've told me if I notice these 3 things, tag it this. Okay, if I see these 3 things, tag it differently. Okay, so I've still trained it on how I want the analysis to be done so that it can then act as an agent autonomously.
Okay.
And I've built that 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, the wrapper, as an automation that runs every week. Okay? So agents, the way that I think about them is it's like, yeah, what are those autonomous steps that I can get the AI to do for me?
Yeah. What if people struggle with, I know it's very simple in how you and what you're asking. It's kind of like it's a flow diagram. If yes, do this. If no, do that, and it just connects to all that. What if I'm trying to do this? I'm trying to build something, put in these steps, but I'm not sure what steps I need to put in, or did I need this step or not? What advice do you have then?
Great question. And my honest answer would be, have the conversation with AI. Because often, if you can go back to the point of context, if you can help it understand what you're trying to achieve and why, it will be able to come back to you and say, okay, here's my thinking. Step 1, step 2, step 3, some considerations for this. If you could help me understand, sometimes it will ask you questions. If you could help me understand this in a bit more detail, I can give you a better answer. So Claude is great for that.
Yeah.
And often I also prompt it to say, this is what I'm thinking, either push back or ask me questions if you're not sure, so that I can then give you more context so that you can give me a better answer.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking, okay, how do I create an agent for my business? What makes sense to try and create? I've got an idea, okay, again, maybe this is something that takes time. Maybe it'd be great if I had a better understanding of the data. Whatever it may be, you can still have that conversation with AI to get to a point of, okay, here's a plan. Okay, great. Now I can use this plan. I can either hand it to the team and say, let's do this differently, or hand it to a developer, or hand it to AI to build you something. So that's the process that I still go through myself.
Okay.
So where I mentioned I will go and generally write things down on a piece of paper, I will then put that into Claude and say, here's what I'm thinking. Ask me some questions if you're not sure. Refine this. Flag anything up that you're like, why are you even thinking that? Okay. To get to a point where I can then get Claude to write me a prompt that I can then copy and paste into a different version of Claude in Bolt.new, which is my vibe coding platform that I'm using, to be able to get to that starting point of, here's what I built for you. Okay. So yeah, context is important. Having the clear idea is important. Knowing what's possible is important. If you have those 3 things, so actually if I go, one of the things I talk about in my book, the 3 C's, okay? Clarity, okay? Having that clear idea of what it is that you want and are wanting to get to. Consistency is in there. So having the conversations, refining it, gaining the knowledge, okay? 2 key things. Putting those together enables us to build the systems, start to think differently, make the progress that we're looking for.
Is it better, in your opinion, to build something with a small amount of data and feed it consistently, or feed it over time so it's refining from the beginning? Or do you think it's better to dump like a library of data and then be like, all right, this is your reference, and now we need to refine as we move forward?
It's a great question. It's one that I've been wrestling with recently. And I think it actually doesn't matter which approach you take,
Okay.
as long as you give the context, okay? Because if you have a small data set and it's like, okay, we're going to build this over time, well then if you're going to have the conversation with AI to help you design a system or analyze the data or whatever else, is like, this is a small starting data set. It will grow over time. I need you to think about that in any design that you propose. How do we have a learning loop based on the fact that new data is going to be added all the time? To give you an example, I put my stats from my LinkedIn posts, YouTube shorts, all of that into Claude. It records them all and says, this topic's been performing better than this topic on this week, on this day. Okay, it can crunch all that data for me. But I had the conversation front and center that said, I'm going to be drip feeding this in over time. So the picture is going to change. We need to understand that, you're not going to have all of the details, and I'm going to keep adding to the picture. How do we create something, that learning loop, that enables us to refine over time? If you take the big data sets, your conversation is different. I'm giving you a big data set. It is a moment in time of right now. More stuff may be added in the future, but I want to be able to get a picture based on this large data set. What learnings can we gather from this? What does it potentially influence in the future? I mean, that's an example of a prompt that I'm giving you, but you will hopefully see then that the nature of the conversation that I want to have with the AI and what I'm trying to get it to do is subtly different.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed throughout our conversation, I think this is an important point, is there's a learning curve of how to talk to AI. Because even just you saying it now, no, this is not create a picture for me. There's a structure of even how you were speaking, which is, I'm guessing, how you prompted in that fashion. But you were saying it was coming so naturally to you. Like someone like me might try to say the same thing, but say it in a completely different way. So the language aspect of how you communicate with AI is probably one of the biggest learning curves you're going to have to make, in my opinion.
I think it often depends on what you are trying to achieve. So if I think about some of the conversations that I've had and what I've got, so Claude is the main tool that I'm using, Claude Code. Sometimes it will be, here's my idea and a bulleted list of those points. It's like, okay, I'm going to, here are some questions I want you to think about or answer for me. So that's more structured. Sometimes it's conversational of me going, not sure about this, thinking this, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Okay. So it really depends on your objective.
Give me a critical analysis, ask me something,
Gotcha.
So it can still be, I guess, loose and unstructured and just sort of free-flowing thoughts. But you can also then put that structure in that says, here's what I'm thinking, here's why, bullet points, whatever it may be, extra resources of documents and images, and, you can take either approach.
Yeah.
It's more about helping it learn your style.
Yeah.
And then being able to bounce off that.
Exactly. Yeah. And one thing, so on not just on the style. So I was thinking about like the show and my podcast now. There's probably thousands of hours of content out there on the internet by now. I was just starting to think about, what can I do with what I have? There's things there's a way to repackage the content, make, courses, blogs, whatever. So I'm trying to, I think moving forward, the businesses that will win are the ones that build tools that are super useful for them based on whatever they've done. And then it gets licensed out to the world. Be like, Philip has that thing. Oh, I like that. Do you mind if I try that out? And then that's how things go. I think you need to build locally and refine locally before you even think about going outside. That would be my thought process of how I would approach AI, in my opinion.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense. It's something that I've started to do. So one of the tools or platforms that I've got AI to help me build is the one I mentioned for reducing the time it takes to set up the AI agents, the conversational ones. Well, I'm now in a position where it's like, okay, maybe I could make this available to other agency owners because it will help them in exactly the same way.
Yeah.
So yes, started locally with my requirements of how do I set this up so it helps me? Oh, okay, maybe now it can also help other people. So yeah, I think it's a great way of looking at it, because if we now have that ability, and I say ability of in the tools are available to create things.
Yeah.
The knowledge gap still exists and we need to fill that. But rather than necessarily having to take off-the-shelf stuff and try and make it fit, we have more freedom to make the things that fit for us and the way that we want to work.
Yeah.
And then if it fits for other people, great. But at least it's helped, me, my productivity, my business grow, my employees, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a sensible way of looking at it. And it may be that, we just have lots of micro tools.
Essentially,
that could be the way that it goes.
Yeah. Essentially, that I think that is the way it's gonna run. When it comes to looking at, we were talking about the productivity, we talked about the time aspect, we talked about the people aspect, the team. So now I think, you can't have a company, if you're running any tech company now, I think it's always been the case, but even more so now, you need to have a CTO, like someone that really understands something. And if you notice throughout our whole conversation, Philip, the key issue we've realized is the knowledge gap in the general public in terms of personal use and in business in application and what they can do with it. But there's so much out there now, thousands of platforms. So for me as a consumer, I don't know, I could go subscribe to 20 and nail it down, or about I'd like to, not do that. So what advice would you have if I came to you I'm trying to evaluate how good this tool is, or is it worth the price, or whatever, and these guys says there's an expert. How do I know if I should trust it or not? What are the metrics or things you look at for platforms that you might work with or use for your own business?
It's a good question, and I can't actually give you the answer that you want, okay? And the reason for that is I've now started shifting my thinking. So when I first got into the AI space, I was a consumer, okay? I wanted to understand, so I was trying to fill that knowledge gap. Now I've done that shift, and it's I'm a creator.
Yeah, I can just build all this.
Not a content creator, but yes, exactly that. So it's I can go and pay for a platform, or I can probably get far enough to replicate this for myself at a basic level, and then it gives me the micro tool that I can use individually. I built myself an image generation platform that I hooked into Nano Banana Pro. Okay, so great. I just then have to pay Google directly, rather than having to pay a platform fee to someone else. Okay, now it's not as sophisticated, not necessarily as robust, all those sorts of things. They've got 60 million models that they've integrated, and I've just integrated one, but does it serve my purpose? Yeah, great. Okay, I can move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So that mental shift from consumer of consuming content and trying to find the right people to being a creator of using the knowledge that I've got, I think is an important distinction in terms of choosing what to look for, how to do an analysis of platforms, who to lean on for knowledge and advice. I think it's more about what do you want to achieve. Okay, I could give you names of people that I started following and trying to gain information from, and it's okay, this guy is specialized in voice AI versus conversation and building, and doing, consultant jobs and, all these sorts of things. It's there's a course here on optimizing your prompts for content creation, for doing your images and your videos and getting your special effects. And there's a course here on, it's there's so much, there's the rabbit hole. But actually, what do I want to achieve? How do I want to use AI? What do I want to use it for? In the same way that, okay, am I picking a vertical to work within? Am I picking my life partner? Am I picking where I'm living? It's like there's so much choice in everything. We have to make that conscious decision. And I've had to do this myself. It's like I bought a course on optimizing my prompts and how to do the special effects for the content. Have I looked at it? No. Because I've gone, actually, that's not where I want to go. I see all of the posts on LinkedIn saying, user-generated content with AI to do all your adverts for your Amazon. I was like, I don't have an Amazon store. I've always thought about it and creating some products. So this would be real. Actually, no, that's not where I'm going. So it's about making the decision of what parts of the AI landscape makes sense for me to focus on.
Yeah. And, I think that's and throughout our conversation, no matter whatever AI tangent we drifted off to, it always came back to that question. What do I want? What do I want to do? And what tool do I need to use it? Because one of the issues as well, even like, as I was telling you, I just started using Claude. Claude's been around for a long time. I've just been using ChatGPT since, the beginning, and I got hooked on it and I learned how to use it and I got better with it and it was good. So it's funny, it was just, even for me, just from a personal experience, just jumping from it felt like jumping from Apple or like Samsung. You know what I'm saying? Like that even when I was, although it looks the same, whatever, like I just didn't feel comfortable on the platform. So it's very interesting how even within the space of AI comfort that I think a lot of people have found themselves in, there are still levels. There are some people that are more comfortable with talking to it because they're not good at like prompting, so they say talk to it instead. But then I'm always like, if it has my voice, I don't know, I get a little bit worried. And I'm like, but you could go online and take thousands of hours of my voice and replicate it. So I think this last question is going to come down to the speed at which people are not adopting AI on a baseline, but adopting and the use, like actually using it in daily life. I think that's the big question mark.
That is, and it still comes back to what do you want to achieve?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've done that shift from ChatGPT to Claude. I did the same. So I'm using Claude Code inside a piece of software called VS Code.
Okay.
Okay. So that's a sort of a coding platform tool, and then now I've connected Claude Code into it. I'm getting it to build tools to help me, some of its content, some of its report writing, some of its article. There's different bits in there that it's helping with.
How do you know
analysis.
sorry to interrupt you, Philip. How do you know which to use? Like within Claude, I went yesterday, there was like co-work, there was code, and there was like chat. And then they'll give you like a brief description. This is good for answers. This is good for building, whatever. And I'm just like, I don't know. Like I don't know which to use, because if I prompt you the same, this is where the tech aspect also is a problem. Do you understand? Of why should I use code versus co-work or versus chat or versus another platform or a Nano Banana or whatever? You know what I'm saying? I think these two are the biggest issues.
Yeah. So gaining the knowledge of how they operate and what they do differently. So am I aware of co-work? Yes. Have I tried it? No.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm using Claude Code, and that's helping me do what I need to do.
Fair.
So I don't go to the Claude.ai website and have a conversation, although it has some memory ability in there and it can store the conversations and some of the context and bits about me, much like ChatGPT can.
Yeah.
For the work that I want to do, building the automations, and other bits and pieces, and being able to say, we're hooking these different systems together and you're going to automatically do the report every week. It's like, okay, that's better using Claude Code because it's more of a tech type function than a pure conversation. And I'm just going to give you some general outputs. Which,
gotcha. Okay, fine.
You could use just the website for, like you were using ChatGPT before.
Yeah.
It's, again, what am I trying to get out of this? What am I trying to do? What am I trying to build? What's my outcome or my output? Okay, then I can start to think about, perplexity. Well, from what I've heard, speaking as someone who is trying to understand this landscape, it's like, okay, so I've heard it's good for this. Okay, so great for research. Oh, am I doing any research? No. Okay, so I don't necessarily need that tool. Okay, thinking about what I need to focus on as an individual. Yes, maybe asking, doing Google searches and finding some resources and having conversation with AI. They will probably be able to give you an analysis of different tools and platforms, what suggestion, things like that. So you have a starting point.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you have to use all of the tools all the time. Have I tried Perplexity? No. I feel I've had no need. Have I tried Manus? No, because I feel I have no need. I found a tool for the work that I want to do and how I want to operate. That's what I'll stick with. Do I have other platforms? Yes, but they are now few and far between.
There's an evolution that like happened in there that switched from platforms to that, because to counter that point of, because I felt the same way. I'm like, I know about Claude, I know about this, I know about all these other ones, but I'm like, yeah, chat, is serving me well, but you can just keep watching and hearing. I'm like, you also don't know what's out there, and what can be done. And when you hear all these stories, I think you need to also, it's about finding the tool that's better, like that works for you and stuff. But be on the lookout. I think we need to really keep up. You need to be on the lookout. What else is better than what I'm currently doing?
So if we think about the traditional hype curve,
sure, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Do you need to be first mover as soon as a model gets released?
No.
You don't need to keep up with any of that. When you start to hear it regularly and other people in conversation, okay, maybe now it's time that it's, something for me to consider.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so, in the same way that I started using ChatGPT, had some conversations with it, and it wasn't until I read the book and realized I could use it as the conversational part of the agent. So I was like, okay, different way of using it. Some case studies here. Somebody's written a book. I can see communities talking about it. Okay, maybe this is something that I can utilize. Great. That's what I dived into. Making the switch from ChatGPT to Claude Code. Okay, I've seen a little bit. It's probably been out for 6+ months, if not longer, before I started to adopt it. But I'd heard and seen enough to say, okay, it can connect into this, it can do this differently. Okay, maybe that's the next evolution for me because of what I want to do and where I want to go.
Yeah.
So do I keep up and and have alerts every time a new model is released? No, because again, that's a rabbit hole. I am choosing not to go down that rabbit hole because it's endless.
Yeah, true.
Gemma 4 was released the other week from Google, which you can then have on a local device and is not hooked up to the net, and you can do that through Olama. And there's so many different bits. It's like, that's a full-time job just trying to understand all of the options.
Yeah.
So find something, work it, then when you hear enough of something else and something that you you almost that conscious of, okay, I've been thinking about trying to do this differently from what I was already doing. I've heard something can help me with that. Okay, now I'll explore it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's about that conscious decision of, I'm not going to try and take everything in because it's not going to help me. I'll get lost. It's too much. I'll find the thing that will support me for where I am right now. I know there's going to be a slight learning curve, and I don't necessarily need to move until I've heard enough that will be like, I was thinking about how I could do this. Now there's something that will help me with that.
Yeah. I think so. Reflecting on our conversation today, Philip. So typically, just for context, I'm kind of disgusted and bored and exhausted of the AI conversation. I've had it with every person across every industry, but I wanted to have it. I was happy to reopen that door with you because this was a very different kind of conversation. I haven't had this type of AI conversation of how to use it and build and business use cases, and we came at it from a different angle than not just what's going to happen and stuff. So I really appreciate that, and I think it's been very, very helpful for a lot of people. Is there anything related to the AI conversation, because I've had it a lot, but I'm curious from your perspective, that we haven't talked about or is under notice that you think we need to bring to light and have a discussion about?
There is, I would say, I'm not the best person to have that discussion.
Okay.
And that's about the legislation. You have the EU AI Act. The UAE is starting to put some stuff in place. Now, who that impacts and how will play out over time.
Yeah.
Is it more focused on the companies that are building the AI models, how the data's used, the interpretation of that and everything else? Does it apply to end users like us who are using those tools and how we use them? How and where they can be used inside businesses for processes, automation, anything like that. Again, all of that will come out over time, but the fact that legislation is starting to be thought about and introduced will change the landscape again.
Everyone talks about that the legislation can't keep up with AI, right? That's the typical that we're not keeping up, which is true. But, I was just thinking, we could also argue that, okay, if AI is the accelerant that we can't keep up with, can we build an AI to keep up with the other AI that's moving at that pace to make the laws?
Well,
do you know what I'm saying?
But my counter to that would be, if you build an AI to keep up with AI, what is it trying to do? Because if we think about it from a legislative perspective, you've got different stakeholder groups involved in that.
Very true.
Okay,
Very
so
true.
Is it to support the corporations? Is it to support the people? Is it to support the governments and be able to say, okay, here's the stamp that says what you can and can't do, like they try and put in place for just about everything else in life? How do you then build an AI to take that perspective, given that governments change, corporations change, society changes. Society is influenced by both of the other two.
True.
It's tricky.
Fair. Very good point. I didn't consider that. So legislation is going to be the next thing that we will determine how this thing's going to go. And I don't disagree with you. Philip, for my last two questions, these are questions I ask all my guests. So looking back at your life, if I ask you either personally or professionally, what are you most proud of for yourself? What would you say?
Oh, that's a tricky one because I have done some weird and wonderful things and some amazing experiences over the years. I think being invited to number 10 Downing Street as a consultant was an interesting experience. So back in a previous life when I was in the video games industry, I was a consultant into a government review into child safety online.
Okay.
So, how kids are using technology. So this was, 2008, 2009 type time. But there was a review into the report where all of the people who had contributed were invited to number 10 Downing Street for discussions and bits and pieces. And that in itself was, as someone from the UK, an interesting experience to see the history and the portraits and just feel that atmosphere. Because you see it in all the films and the door opens and it's okay. And it's like, okay, now I'm the other side of that. I'm on the inside. This is interesting. That is one of the moments that stands out. Yeah,
that's awesome, man. And that's a very special moment. Not many people can say that. And it sounds like it was a project that resonated with you because it was that space and it was for a good cause, so it kind of made sense. And I just remembered this before I get to my last question. So there's a guy I'm not sure what his name is, but he made the documentary the Social Dilemma. The social, I don't know if you've seen it. It was on Netflix, and he has a company called Humane something. I can't remember what it's called. So he's all about that last point that we just talked about. How do we put in the right guardrails for this to take place? And as you were saying, one of the biggest challenges of the guardrails is your guardrails might not be mine. Just like with food, food products, some are accepted here, some you can't take that. It's just in a very simple way. So if we can't agree on the guardrails because everyone's are different and probably should be different, you can't really govern this. Like to what extent? Kind of like the nuclear treaty, I guess. All right, you start building AI, and we'll start building AI, and we'll be cool. Nuclear weapon? Okay, maybe. Yeah, okay, I can see this big thing. That is, I think, a fantasy. What do you think?
It's going to be very tricky. You know?
Yeah.
A number of the big corporations, US. Some of them are from China. You know, so there's a natural tension there. Anyway, we've had obviously over the past couple of years the TikTok discussion.
Of course, yeah, of course.
You know, being allowed or you know, being banned in the US and vice versa. It will always be tricky. I don't think there's any easy answer to it. And, you know, we almost at the end of that chain as a consumer or a user, even if we're building with AI, some of that legislation may impact us. We'll have to wait and see. But like anything else, we will just have to navigate it. We are not necessarily in a position to influence it. As much as we like to think, oh, I can vote for government. It's like, I've never voted once in my life, because it's like, you know what, it's actually going to have no impact whatsoever. And I think the same thing is true. It's like wearing seatbelts or not wearing seatbelts. Okay, certain countries adopted that early, like many, many years ago. Others, it's only been a recent introduction.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so, you know, the fact that we have different countries will probably end up leading to different legislation in certain things, and then it will be, how do we navigate that as an end user, like anything else?
Yeah, fair. And you know, I think when you simplify and refine it, it just comes back to like any other topic. I don't know why this topic just comes with a hint of like spice. Always, it just does. I think it's a combination of excitement, fear, anxiety, heaven, hell, you know, all wrapped into this, you know, this technology that we've been talking about today. And for my last question, Philip, what is the message you'd like everyone to take home with them today?
Message to take home. That is a tricky one. I think the message that I would give is that if you are anxious about AI, it's not too late. You can gain the knowledge and the understanding to help you choose how you want to use it, when and where. Well,
I think that's a perfect message, guys, and a way, you know, to end the podcast today. Philip, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show, man. The timing of it was perfect. I really, really have had such a great time. I love the conversation. I've learned so much from you, which is now going to help me. So lucky me. And I think anyone that is in that same headspace that I think a lot of people are about AI, about this space, there's so much, either personally or professionally, they can take away from this conversation that I hope will, you know, take them to where they're trying to go. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Welcome. Thank you.
And if people want to work with you, check out your stuff, where can we get in touch? Where can we find you?
So I am on most of the social platforms.
Okay.
Easiest one is probably LinkedIn.
Okay.
If you're not LinkedIn, then you find me on Instagram or YouTube. I do have, you know, for anybody who is, you know, has an established business, you know, is a founder, entrepreneur, is thinking about, okay, AI, how they can introduce it to their business. I do have a free 12-question checklist. So it's worked on you know, the 12 chains from my first book. So that's freely available at philipride.com/checklist. So we can put that in the description or whatever else. But yeah, that's there. 12 questions. So to give you an example, in your business, who has responsibility for AI? Okay. If nobody has responsibility, it's going to be difficult to implement. Okay. So it's questions to think about, because once you have the answers to those, it helps you chart a path.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. We'll make sure to put all that in the show notes. I think that'll be very helpful for everyone to get just a bit of a health check of where we're at and what can we do. Philip, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, my man. Guys, to everyone listening, thank you so much. Please make sure to like, share, follow, and subscribe to the podcast. I hope it helps pod on all channels. And as always, guys, hope it helps. Peace.